make coffee, write checks. For all of you here at Center for Spiritual Living East Hawaii, and it's delightful to see you all here this morning. I'd like to extend a welcome to all of those joining us online, and of course, if you're here for the first time, we honor you. And if you're here for the first time in the sanctuary, yes, thank you for coming. We love it. We love feeling you here. And then, of course, we always say, too, that if this craziness, and you have heard that it is already today, resonates with you, and of course, if the message does too, we only have two words, and they are, welcome home. Exactly. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And yeah, part of being the spiritual leader here is not always the funnest thing to do, especially at a time like this. And yesterday, I have sad news that one of our beloved congregants made his transition. After suffering a severe stroke, our beloved Dwight Huffman made an agreement with the divine. As I always say, in this time, it's an agreement that we come to with the divine, and he took his step into his next most wonderful experience that is waiting for him. And we honor him. We honor him in this time, in this place, and of course, we wrap our arms around our beloved Shaku, for sure, for he was her beloved husband. And so we reach out with our arms, our hearts, our emotions, and our feelings, and we just hold that space. So please, let's take a breath together as we hold that space for Shaku and Dwight. And we know that they are love, and we know that they are held in the arms of the divine, right here, right now, as we honor life and the continuation of it. And so it is. Okay. It seems like this is becoming a weekly thing, so folks, this is it. No more. All right? No more. No more. We're good. We're good. We can go for another year without having to say these words again. So, and in respect of them, we're going to tell a joke, because I know that my beloved Shaku loves to laugh, as does Dwight. So today the joke is about a monastery that is up on in Tibet, high in the mountains. And to get there, you travel at least a full day up into the mist-covered mountains, just to get to the base of the mountain. And then the way up to the entrance of the monastery is in a basket. You are suspended in a basket, and there are monks at the top that are going to be pulling you up, and pulling you up. And yes, and in this basket is a is a person who's a little bit nervous, trembling, you know, feeling extremely vulnerable as they get pulled up this mountain. They happen to glance up and see that the rope was a little frayed. Not afraid, a little frayed. So he leans over to the monk that's in the basket with him, and he goes, I noticed the rope is a little frayed. How often do they change the rope? The monk thought for a second. He looked at him, he goes, when it breaks. Yeah. Woo, talk about being vulnerable, huh? Yeah, side of a mountain, Tibet, high, woo, yeah. That's when you are definitely praying. So, as you can tell, our topic for today is vulnerability. Anybody prickle? I'm sure I had a prickle somewhere. Yes, it's a word that can bring up a prickle in us, vulnerability. I actually happened upon a conversation about 3 or 4 weeks ago where people were talking about the word vulnerability. And it was brought about as a word that is not a good word. It's a bad word. Have no idea why we're using it, why we're even considering talking about it, and that it just brings up this yuckiness that we all want to run away from. We don't want to be vulnerable, and it was this conversation. Of course, as you guys know, I was part of the visioning team for this whole year of topics and thoughts and everything, and so I'm listening to this going, huh? That's not where we were coming from at all. So I, of course, in my nice, quiet way, said, no, that's not it. That's not at all what we were thinking on vulnerability. That's not at all where we were going. And, of course, I was very gentle about it, as you know I can be when I get on one of my soapboxes. Anyway, so vulnerability. But, you know, I'm considerate, and I wanted to give the other's point of view some time. So I went in and I actually looked up the definition of vulnerability. Because I thought, of course, we look at our dictionaries and we tend to get caught up in what they say. So first of all, the definition is the quality or state of being exposed to the possibility of being attacked or physically abused. Okay? It's a quality or state of being exposed to the possibility of being attacked. Physically, mentally, emotionally, all of those kind of things. Yeah, that's not something that we really want to deal with. It's something that we would rather not be. It's something that we build strength against. We put up our armors and everything against that. But as we know in religious science and science of mind, that there have been many, many words over the years that we have brought forth a different way of looking at it. Not just vulnerability. I can't even name the others, but you know we've had them. We've turned them into something that can support us and not give us fear. So, and one of the ladies that has been talking about vulnerability is Brené Brown. We all know Brené Brown, and one of her books, that one of my favorites, is Dare to Lead. And in there, she does a lot of work around vulnerability, being open to being vulnerable, and we will talk about that. It's not just the opposite of what I just said. It's different. And she speaks, and her take on vulnerability is this: a state of emotional exposure. That must be God calling. Who's answering? Somebody answer God's call, please, right now. Okay, good. Thank goodness we still have that connection. We love it. All right, so getting back to Brené Brown. Brené Brown says, vulnerability is a state of emotional exposure that comes with a certain degree of uncertainty. It involves a person's willingness to accept the emotional risk that comes from being open and willing to love and be loved. Doesn't that feel different? A person's willingness to be open and willing to love and be loved. Now that's the vulnerability I want to deal with. That's the way I would like to move in the world. Just be open, willing to be loved and loved. Let's breathe that in. So when you hear the word vulnerability now, you don't have to go, oh, I have to protect myself. Because you really don't. And just a little thing on the side. You've got to remember, right, that the universe, God, is for us. Always. We very seldom have to protect ourselves. There's sometimes, you know, you don't want to be walking down an alleyway in downtown Chicago in the middle of the night with money falling out of your pockets. You might be a little vulnerable. This is not what we're dealing with. We're dealing with being vulnerable in ourselves in a place where we are in community, where we're loved, and we can be loving. And Reverend Ryan Pulley, who actually wrote the outlines for this week, he said it beautifully. He said, vulnerability is not weakness, but instead a conscious choice to express thoughts, feelings, and desires in a way that serves to nurture an authentic life. The willingness to engage in the exploration of our own authenticity invites others to do the same. It calls us to create safe spaces, safe communities, and safe relationships in which vulnerability can thrive and grow. In this offering, we create the container for the transformative effects of vulnerability. Vulnerability becomes the starting point of authenticity and connection, not only to ourselves, but to spirit and the world around us. It calls us to bring our own unique expression to life while extending the same invitation to others. Wow. Now that takes vulnerability in a whole beautiful direction. Suddenly that V doesn't become a V of fear, it becomes a V of growth, a V to lean into this idea of being our authentic selves, to be our fullest expression of the divine in every way. Yes. Dr. Ernest Holmes writes, Dr. Ernest Holmes, for those who knew, the founder of our teaching, the guy who brought us all together eventually, caused this craziness. He says, every one of us has in back of us the potential of the universe. We have the potential of the universe in back of us. There is an irresistible potential pressing against everyone for self-expression. If we listen, we shall hear it, not as a voice, but as a feeling, as a divine urge to express. So vulnerability invites us into this place where we get to express our authenticity. God called again. Somebody answer God. So it's inviting us to be our authentic selves. Okay? It's inviting us to speak from the place of our truth. So now we have an idea of what vulnerability is. Let me explain to you what vulnerability is not. Because there's a very fine line between being open about who you are, how you feel, and vomiting all over the person next to you. That is not vulnerability, folks. No, that is not it. Just because you want to be your authentic self, just because you want to step in and know who you are, and you want to share those parts of you that maybe are not so pretty, does not mean to say you go bleh, and just throw it all over it and say, but what? I'm just being vulnerable. No, you're not. You're being obnoxious. So there's this wonderful line of where we get to share who we are, but we discern how and when and who and what we share it with. That is vulnerability, that is growth, that is love. Because if you see people are looking at you going, oh my God, I've got to run in this direction because this person's going to be vulnerable with me. No, we want to be in love with each other. We want to be present. We want to be able to hold that space with each other. So yes, we want to be vulnerable. We want to be authentic. And we also want others to be authentic with us, which means we walk that beautiful line in love. And you know how you get there? It's very easy how to get there. But you have to first move through the places that you don't want to see, the things that are keeping you from being authentic, the things that are keeping you from being vulnerable. You've got to move through those before you can move into the way of really being vulnerable in a healthy manner in community and people around you. So what I noticed is that as we have been walking through this year, there's this call to live life out loud. It's called Living Out Loud, was the theme for the year, right? And in that, we're called to wholeness. In all of these aspects that we've been speaking about, be it curiosity, be it authenticity, be it rooted in the teachings of science of mind, we are called to wholeness, to be that fullest expression of the divine that we can possibly be. This is the call that I am hearing as I'm moving through this year. And maybe you can hear that call too, because in this wholeness, We can't separate our goodness, you know, that stuff that you go, oh, this is great, I love this part of me, to, oh, I don't like that part of me. It's all one. We've got to wrap our arms around it and bring it all in. We've got to become friends and willing to look at that stuff inside of us that maybe we don't really want to share with everybody. And it's okay, we don't have to share it with everybody, but we do need to share it with ourselves. We need to move away from judgment of ourselves, and we need to move into that place where we can love even the yucky stuff. You know, those things that we've judged as mistakes. Those things we go, oh, I would never tell anybody about that. That's just awful. I want to just put it away. You know what happens with that? It's like you'll trip over it eventually because it's always going to come up. Because it's still a part of who you are. You know that big quilt of your life? Every one of those little squares is an incident, a magnificent celebration, an awful mistake, a great relationship, a bad relationship. Things that are hidden and dark that you don't even want to look at anymore. But it's all this magnificent quilt that is who you are right now. So when you can recognize that all of this stuff is who you are, you can love on it. You can go into that vulnerable state and look into your inside and go, here we go. But why don't we do it? Why don't we look there? What are the things that want to keep us from looking at that place? We got 3. I love 3s. Fear, uncertainty, and comparison. Do you like that one? Yeah, comparison. Theodore Roosevelt actually said, comparison is the theft of joy. Yeah, I love that. And then Ralph Waldo Emerson always says, let me make sure I'm reading that right. To be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment. So, so often we're looking at these things going, oh yeah, that I don't want to be that because the world wants me to be something else. So when you can work against that, but here we have fear, we have uncertainty, and we have comparison. Your vulnerability, I could feel the little things all coming up. You feel them. The fear of what? Fear of being judged, the fear of being isolated, the fear of being rejected for who you are. This beloved expression of the divine. Really? Those two things don't go together in the same sentence. You are a beloved expression of the divine. There's no reason to be rejected. That's your fear coming up. Uncertainty. Well, how will my life look if I really look into me and know the truth of who I am? Can I still stand here and be the same person? But of course, because you are already. You're already that person. You're just hiding some of those things in you. But they are integral parts of what made you to be the person now. Do we have to bring them up, invite everybody to dinner and share them? Oh, no. No. That's not the stuff you need to share. No, we don't need to share that. But we do have to share it with ourselves. We have to be okay with who we are. It's okay to look back and go, wow, I got away with that one. I don't know how I skated by it. Oh, God, I pray nobody ever finds out that I did that. I'm so happy that I was guided at that time to move in this direction as opposed to that. We all have these stories. But they're just stories that are a quilt, a piece of our quilt. They're not the quilt. They're just a piece of it. So we don't have to worry about that. And then comparison. Who are you comparing yourself to? Well, I better walk like this, because if I walk like this, that person is going to, I want to be just like that person. But that's just a really minor way of saying it. Comparison. How often have you compared yourself to your siblings? Anybody? Anybody gone? I'm seeing the hands doing this. How often have you compared yourself to your siblings? both good and bad, right? Oh, thank goodness I'm not like my sister. Yeah, you guys have heard me say that 100 times, but there's no comparison here. We are only us. We don't have to be like anybody, and we don't have to be unlike anybody. We can just be ourselves if we're willing to be ourselves. Let go of the fear. Let go of the uncertainty of what the world might think about you. Come on, we're all beloved expressions. And let go of the comparison of what you think other people have an expectation. Can you see all of the stuff from the outside in? That's not us. We're expressions from the inside out. The light that Dennis spoke about, from the inside out, we let that light shine. We want that light to shine. Oh, we have this beautiful statement here. Dr. Ernest Holmes says, we should come then to this great reservoir of nature, to this infinite side of ourselves, in full and simple trust, in confidence and faith. I'm going to say that again. We should come then to this great reservoir of nature, to this infinite side of ourselves, in full and simple trust, in confidence and faith. We're allowed to be who we are. We are called to be who we are. We're called to the vulnerability that when we can seek it in ourselves first. And how do we do that? 3 more words. Knowing, allowing, and opening. Knowing who we are. Just being honest with yourself. Have you ever tried lying to yourself? How'd that go? Not so good, you know? Yeah. You know, we feel that if we tell the story over and over again enough times to ourselves that we too will believe it. Yeah. You wake up in the middle of the night with the nightmare going, oh, here we go again. So knowing yourself. No, not just the icky stuff. Know the great stuff too. That's also part of being vulnerable. Who doesn't want to share their good things about themselves? I know we have people in here. We all have a part of us. They're going to think I'm egotistical. Oh, they're going to think I'm self-promoting. You know what? Wouldn't it be wonderful if we, without any kind of ego thought from other people, could stand and go, you know what? I like me. I like that I'm kind. I like that I'm generous. I like that I get to do stuff that I'm adventurous. I like that I will take that road I shouldn't take. The one that I took before. It's not going to take me to a different spot, but I'm going to take it again. I like me. Who can stand up and say, I like me? Yes, yes. Come on, stand up. I like me. I like me. Come on, I like me. Yes, I like me. Absolutely. Let's say it all together. I like me. That's it. All right. So I like me. It's brilliant to know that we can like ourselves. Can we allow ourselves to be all that we are? Can we allow ourselves to be a little bit more vulnerable? Can we allow ourselves to shine? Can we allow ourselves to take that light and shine it into that dark little patch over there that you go, ooh, I don't want anybody to look there. And you know when you do, you know what you find? Nothing. Seriously, nothing. Because it's probably something that happened a long time ago that has dissolved. It has no importance in this time and in this frame and in who you are right now. It has no importance. It is nothing. And when you're willing to go there, which is the next thing, opening yourself up, when you're willing to go and open yourself up to look a little bit at these things, you can look at it and go, gosh, I don't need to even be talking about this stuff because it's nothing. And then you could even say even more, I like myself, because now you've rid of that little piece. You took your light and you shine it on there. You allowed yourself to be that magnificent expression of the divine that you truly are. By letting go of that self-judgment, that's an important part. Opening yourselves up to be who you truly are. And don't forget, that doesn't mean to say that you get to vomit all over other people with all the things that you think you know, that you have done, that you should do, that you didn't do, that you want to do, you know, and have this, well, I'm being authentic, I'm just going to tell everybody the way it is. Being open is being present with other people too, where we can sit together and maybe not have to go over everything we did, but we get to sit together and grow forward as new people together. That's being vulnerable. That's saying, I want to move forward. I want to grow. I want to express a greater divinity in me. I want to move forward. That's how we get vulnerable together. That's how we love on each other together. That's how we get that feeling that Dennis spoke about returning to the baby, to the light. You know, they always speak about babies being vulnerable. Yeah, babies are vulnerable. Young animals are vulnerable. People, you know, we see them as vulnerable. Well, because they're tiny, they don't have a lot of strength, sure. But are they resilient? There is nothing like the resilience of a baby. They're going to go out, they're going to do whatever they're going to do. They're going to fall down, boing, they bounce right back up, and they keep going. And you know, it's a great lesson for us, because you know, whenever we speak about wholeness, we often speak about going back to that clean slate that we had as this divine expression when we were babies. Well, how about when we could be vulnerable? Let's go back and be vulnerable as well. We could be vulnerable like babies. Boing, we bounce back up. We're resilient. Resilience. It's a great word. You say it like it sounds. I mean, like it means resilience. It's a good word. Vulnerability and resilience. So when you pair vulnerability and resilience together, what do you get? You get strength. You get strength. You get that strength of being present in the now moment with that light that shines so beautifully in front of you. There's this Shameless is a book by Nadia Bolz-Weber. She goes, I never really feel... No, sorry, this is the wrong one. I went to the wrong one. Take two. This is from Madeleine d'Angle. When we were children, we used to think that when we were grown up, we would no longer be vulnerable. But to grow up is to accept vulnerability. We always thought that when we grow up, when we're no longer children, we wouldn't be vulnerable anymore, but to grow up is to accept vulnerability. It's to accept the truth of who you are. It's to accept the wonderment of who you are. I love it. I can see us all going, boing, we bounce back. Something comes our way, something's like looking a little bit off, and we're like, okay, I'm feeling a little vulnerable. Bring it on. Boing, I'm back. It's perfect. Because when we live in that place of strength of our truth and our wholeness, we can't be under attack, because even if we are, God's on our side. Come on. This creation that is living within us is bringing forth and is for us in every minute. Remember, the universe is for us, not against us. So even when things look a little offbeat, they can actually be for us. I'm not going to go into that one. That's a whole other talk. But what we can do is, when we are in community, what's lovely about vulnerability is we get to see the texture of each person. Because when we come in armored up, there's no texture. We're flat, we're solid. That expression that we want everybody to see. And this is what Nadia Bolz-Weber said. I never really feel a connection to someone until they have shared with me the lumpy, broken, or even petty parts of themselves. Our pain and failure, the things we so often try to hide, the things that create shame, the things that scar, are what give us texture. And without texture, there is nothing for others to connect to. That's wonderful. So why is it important? Why is it important for us to lean into vulnerability? Because it opens us up to love and joy and sadness and heartbreak. It's all those things in between as well. It creates and expands space for us to live and to grow. So we can loosen our grip on the areas where we're playing small, and we can open up to the possibilities that await us. Yeah. Now, folks, that's what vulnerability is. How do you feel about the word now? Better, huh? Much better. So how do we do this? How do we invite ourselves into that place of being vulnerable? How do we invite others into the space with us to be vulnerable? The biggest thing of all is we have to lose the judgment. We have to lose the judgment first and foremost on ourselves. And if anybody thought that was an easy task, take a breath. It's not an easy task, but it is important. And we do it through forgiveness. Judgment gone through forgiveness. And when we can do that with ourselves, it's easy to do it with the others. And so that is my invitation with you this week, is to move through this week with a heart and a mind open to seeing and being in that place of non-judgment. But please, you've got to do it with yourself first. You've got to go there first. Not judge. Not make okay things that are unskilled behavior in your life. That's not it at all. But be okay with you. And if you need the difference between me and unskilled behavior, meet with me. We'll do a session, and we'll see where the unskilled behavior comes up. We all have a little bit of it. It's okay. But when we come together with those textures, we bring our textures in, and then we're like rocks in one of those beautiful tumblers where we get to smooth our edges together in love and being loved. So in closing today, I have a little piece from Dr. Ernest Holmes. He goes, "We are aware of this, that our word is the presence and power of action of love, the living Spirit Almighty, and of perfection and of peace and joy and wholeness, oneness. We are aware of the infinite and limitless joy of being. All the energy there is, and all the enthusiasm there is, all the intelligence there is, and all the happiness there is at the point of our oneness with the divine, our wholeness. We accept the realization of the light and the life and the power and the presence of the truth at the center of our being. We accept the absoluteness of that truth and our own authority in it. So it is." So we're going to take this to prayer. We're going to take vulnerability to prayer. So as I breathe in to this moment right here, right now, I recognize the power and the presence of the divine, knowing that that is all that there is. It is the only activity right here, right now. It is that magnificent creative intelligence that is working around us and through us and as us, in all that we do, in all that we think, in all that we say, in all that we feel, in all that we experience. For it is that life, it is that life force that is having its way as us in this world. And I know for each one of us is that we look inside and we release the judgment of our own selves, where we can open ourselves up and stand with an open heart, an open mind, open arms, and know that the vulnerability we feel is a strength. There is a strength in us that we can stand and be the magnificent expressions of the divine that we are. We can stand in this place of forgiveness of that which we don't like about ourselves, and at the same time know that it is a part of the quilt that we are. For this is the truth of who we are. We're made up of all these small pieces of fabric that are incidents in our lives, experience and loves. And it is magnificent. And I know that this is the truth of us. So I know for each one of us that as we walk this week, we walk it in our fullness, we walk it in our authenticity, we walk it in our vulnerability, but we walk it in our wholeness. For we have said yes. Yes to the divine, yes to the expression of love that we are. Yes, yes. And so I just release this word, this prayer, this word, this talk, knowing that Spirit, in turn, has said yes. Yes, my beloveds, you've set your intentions, you've expressed your desires, and it is done, and done magnificently. And together we claim it by saying, and so it is. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Susanna.